Good.
If you need water, Brett brought a case.
Oh, thank you, Dave. I like this. It's like Patrick's meeting.
He's running the show.
I like it.
And he's
About
taking
time.
us to dinner later. Obviously, I'm hungry. I keep talking about food.
Good day, if that's letters done, Paula.
All right, it's 5:30 here at the Southeast Polk District Office. We'll go ahead and get this meeting started. We get roll call, Karen?
Handy,
Here.
Crab,
Here.
Fisher,
Here.
Nave,
Here.
Slings,
Here,
Crowell,
Here.
Powell,
Here. All right, looks like we have a quorum, so the meeting is official. We'll go ahead and move on to 1B, agenda adoption. Dr. Lepnick, are there any changes on the agenda?
There are none.
motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Sorry. Adam.
I'll do that to Rick. All right.
No, you got chipped.
Karen?
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes,
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes. All right, 1C, district vision and mission. Do we have any volunteers?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Southeast Polk will learn, lead, live, engage all students in learning a challenging curriculum delivered through quality instruction.
Awesome, thank you. 1D, this is time for public comments. If there's anybody that would like to comment on anything on the agenda or not on the agenda, this is the time to do so. You have 3 minutes as an individual or 5 minutes as a group, which I don't know how we do that on the computer, but we'll just say it anyway. Mr. McCom, have we had any emails or anybody on?
We've had no public comments submitted in the form or via email to myself.
Okay,
I don't see any chats either at this time.
okay, I'll give it about 30 seconds here and see if anybody starts typing. Need Jeopardy music to play at this time. In honor of Alex Trebek. Can you do that? No.
School fight song. That's what you need.
School. Hey, there you go.
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right. Mr. McCom, if anybody types in why we move along, just let me know and we'll try to catch them.
Will do.
1E consent agenda.
I've seen. Just be on the counter.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments for administration on anything in there?
Thank you.
Hearing none. Karen?
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes,
Crowell,
Abstain.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries on the agenda. Looks like item number 2, we'll move on into old new business, confirmation of next meeting. Looks like that is on
March 11th.
March
Motion
11th.
to
Thank
approve.
you.
Second.
All right, March 11th. Any concerns about that? Everybody good? Karen?
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes,
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
All right, 2B, cooperative sharing agreements. Looks like we got some agreements with other schools for some activities. Is Mr. Campbell with us or just
He might be out there because he is presenting later tonight. There's nothing new
Okay.
with this. In fact, there's I think one less and they'll gradually continue to be less as we move forward in time.
okay? So as you can see, it looks like we got some sharing girls swimming with and tennis with Bondurant and Prairie City, Monroe.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any questions or anything else?
Has attorneys all reviewed this? Everything's standard?
Yes.
It's always good to be able to share what we have with other schools so they can participate. So,
Yeah.
all right, Karen?
Slings,
Yes.
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
All right, 2C, we have a driver's education agreement.
Motion to approve.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'm just very pleased that Street Smarts is, or maybe it came from the legislature, but they're going from required 30 hours of classroom to 40, which is great. And they're going from 6 hours of driving time to 10. Because I think as a former driver's ed teacher, these young kids just didn't have enough experience, and I'm glad to see that's the route they're going to take, that they're going to give them more, which is great.
My comment would be, we came from back when we didn't have a fee. They didn't have a fee, and now it's going up $30. So I just want to make sure that they don't raise it every single year, because parents have to come up with this. So I don't ever like to see the price go up, but that's just me verbalizing it.
Is that price change reflective of the additional instruction hours?
No.
Good evening, board. This is Kevin. The price change is reflective of the market. We actually had a higher price change to start, and then our Metro SBOs or business managers all sniffed this out together. So we kind of colluded together, if you will, to drop our price than what it was for the initial ramp up of the initial offering. So this is a 3-year agreement at the stated price, and an additional 2-year extensions if needed at that same static price.
They still do recognize free and reduced lunch, right, Kevin?
Correct. The district's dime. So if the student qualifies as reduced or free, the district will pay for that portion.
Kevin, let's never use that C word again, because that'll get us in trouble.
That's my only comment. So that's all I had to say about it.
Collude.
Do we bid on this? Is this something that people, or I know there's other companies out there, but do we give other people options to bid on this?
We haven't done a formal request for proposal on this. Looking at the competition though here prior to receiving this agreement, there are a couple different competitors to this. The price range though is a little bit more than what this called for, and also the hours of service seem to not fit what we had for our students from the past. In the future, we certainly can look and do a detailed analysis of those competitors in the market. You may recall there was a Drive Tech that was in the industry before. Drive Tech was actually purchased by Street Smart.
Oh,
They're buying up their competition.
yeah. Well, there used to be a lot more of them, and then
Yeah.
I just think they've combined.
Pilots, drive test.
Right, yeah,
Drive
autopilot.
with cops.
Yeah, and I think, drive with a cop, oh my gosh, that'd be crazy.
No, that's serious. There's one called, that's serious. There's one called Drive.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Pilots had those awful
Yeah.
PT Cruisers.
No, I think Street Smarts has been
It would be.
good. I'm with Lori on
I'd like to
that. I
send a
mean, when the
few kids
price
that
keeps
way.
going up, I mean, it's obviously hard on families as it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't go back. It'd be nice to go back to be able to offer it on our own but no, just curious on how we get to that point. So I'm good with Street Smarts. Any other comments or questions? All right, Karen?
Crowell,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Crab,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Nave,
Yes.
Slings,
Yes.
All right, motion passes there. Item 3, topics for discussion. We'll start off with Dr. Lupnick, Superintendent's Report.
You got, good evening. Start off with some good news and a few kind of newsworthy items and then transition into return to learn. I have to begin with the weather forecast. If you've seen the 15-day forecast, the average high for temps are in the 30s and 40s, and snow is reserved for the weekends. So that's a positive and good
Yeah,
news
that
as
is
we
good
move
news.
forward. On a serious note with that, though, I do want to say a gigantic public thank you to our transportation department for the early mornings and the incredible work that they've done to get our buses up and running and keeping our kids warm and safe as they come to school and go home. And kind of second that with our buildings and grounds department as well for the work that they've done to make sure that our buildings are safe, warm, and that our sidewalks and parking lots are clear and so on. So it's been a tough few weeks for those people and they have risen to the occasion. So a huge thank you there. Registration, it's always kind of hits me in the side of the head how all of a sudden we're talking about 21, 22 and we're running down that road. We're a few weeks into kindergarten and preschool registration for next school year. And we're 1 week away from opening registration for all kids on March 1st for our next school year. So that's up and running. Since our last board meeting, we've crossed the 100-day mark for schools, and that's a really big issue at the elementaries if you've never seen the celebrations and things that they do. So we've hit that mark. We're kind of coming to the culmination of winter activities. A few things just to share. If you didn't see last night, our wrestlers ended up runners-up for the state dual title. Fantastic, 3 years in a row in the finals against the same team. So, and then today had a really good day in the traditional tournament. We sit overall in third place, but definitely in striking distance. So it'll be fun to watch the next 2 days. Both girls and boys basketball are right around the corner from tournaments. We had a participant in the state swim meet last week. Our boys bowlers qualified as a team and our top bowler was the medalist. Our girls finished second today in their qualifier and they're waiting to see if they'll get an at-large bid. And so we've got our fingers crossed there. And then on top of all that, you may have seen that head coach Brad Zelenovich was named the 4A football coach of the year. So lots of good things to share with activities. I'm not going to completely steal Kevin's thunder because I know you'll be on the edge of your seat with his budget discussion, but Senate File 269 did pass the Senate after it had passed the House last week. So it is on the way to the governor's desk, which set SSA at 2.4%. It also added another $10 per student for the student equity fund to bring that district cost per pupil up to the same. That will affect us. And it also put around, I think, somewhere between $500,000 and $700,000 total towards transportation equity, so that all districts are at least the state transportation cost. And that also will affect us a little bit, not a lot. Kevin can answer the details there. Overall, that 2.4% is $28 million increased over last year. Just to, again, kind of give you a historical outlook, the average of the last 10 years has been $95 million new money each year. So it's
And that's
significantly.
statewide, that's not for our district.
That's statewide, right?
Yeah.
Statewide. So it's significantly less than
Each year,
no.
it's significantly lower.
So we'll talk a little bit about the ramifications of that in Kevin's presentation. Couple other things that have happened since our last board meeting. There have been 2 steps with the Pleasant Hill City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding our multipurpose stadium. In both of those cases, required votes met with unanimous approval to continue to move things along on time and in a good fashion. That's really exciting. Kind of with that, on the multipurpose stadium front, we this week officially completed the design development phase, and we're now moving into the construction document phase. So we passed a big milestone in the stadium itself. So that's very exciting. Doesn't sound like it, but it is. It means that things are moving along as they should. Many bills, education related out there right now. I'll share detailed updates with you tomorrow. But now is the time for advocacy for education. We're kind of in the very heart of when the decisions are being made. So just want to share that. And then finally, this is kind of a good one to transition into return to learn. As we talk about vaccinations, which is something that's on top of a lot of people's minds, educators. I just wanted to share that we're in constant communication with all of the players involved in this, and doing all we can to increase opportunities for our staff to be vaccinated. What we all know the answer is that vaccine supply is the issue. And as soon as there is any supply, we will have more opportunities for our staff. As soon as we hear and have any kind of opportunities, we're passing that out to our staff, and they're taking us up on that, which is a good thing. So we're making progress, not as fast as all of us would like to see, but as soon as supply becomes a little bit more, we'll be able to move faster. Questions?
I just have one, Dr. Whitney.
Yep.
Kindergarten numbers, are they, obviously they're not in yet, you said, but are they looking like they're gonna be higher than we would hope, or?
We're anticipating them to be much higher than normal. It's too early to tell numbers yet, so I don't have anything to
Sure.
share with you there. But even from a state perspective, I was just in a meeting this afternoon where they were sharing the expectation probably 20% higher than what we would normally see is kind of what they're telling people to set their expectations for planning wise. But we'll see as that registration process continues.
So as, now obviously we were, correct me on the number, I think we were 60-ish numbers down this year district-wide.
80, yeah.
80, okay, so that was a little low. If our numbers in kindergarten are gonna be where we think they're going to be, I guess what is our plan? And maybe that's premature question. I'm sure you're probably thinking about it, but so we don't have class sizes of 30, 35
Sure.
in a kindergarten class.
Yep. Joe Horton and I actually met this week and started having this official discussion and looking at where we stand right now with the idea of where things will be. And that's something over the next few weeks we'll start to solidify. And then Joe will bring that staffing plan to the board.
Okay. thanks.
Dr. Lopnick.
The big piece we needed, was SSA. So we know what the game plan looks like and what our resources are.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
I know you were going to cover some more in depth on the different bills and stuff, but because it's pertinent to what we're discussing now, has there been any more movements or expression of thoughts on the removal of the restrictions for open enrollment? Because I know that's something for us specifically that could have a huge impact on numbers.
The short answer is no. The governor's omnibus bill has basically been kind of broken up into various individual parts, and that the open enrollment piece is one of those individual parts. But it has not been brought to the floor on either side that I've seen, at least. That maybe late this afternoon something happened that I'm not aware of.
Anything else for Dr. Lipnick on this topic? Superintendent's report? If not, looks like you got.
Sure, we'll just transition into return to learn, and this will be brief. You have at your desk the dashboard data for today. You can see that our numbers continue to improve slightly. You can see from a student standpoint, we're at 15 total positive cases, 89 in quarantine. And from a staff, we're in that two-loader report for both of those. Building absentee rates are in good shape. Centennial did have a little bit of an uptick this week, but it's not into the danger zone as we see, and it's not in just one spot. It's kind of across all grade levels. And looking at our quick stats, county positivity was 9.3% today. Our district's at 10.4, so just slightly above. Absentee rates actually on the student side jump down into that low green category, which is a positive. I've already shared the positives and quarantines. And be happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looks like 3C website updates. This is Christensen, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. She out there somewhere in the space.
There she is.
There's Jeannie. Can you hear us, Jeannie? Not yet.
Can you hear me?
We
Yep.
can now.
All right. Hello, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you? So I know that you can't see me, but yes, this is Jeannie Christensen, and I am the new Community Relations Coordinator for Southeast Polk Schools. And so I just want to thank the board for giving me a couple of minutes to share with you just a few little updates that we have recently made to our website and some plans that we have in the works for the website. So can you guys all see the main page of the website right now?
No.
No.
All right. I'm trying to share my screen.
Something's coming. There we go.
There we go.
Now you see it?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, excellent. And so just a reminder, our website can be found at www.southeastpolk.org. That's all one word. So here is our website. We want to make sure that all of our digital assets support our brand. And I am in conversations with our leadership about doing just that. And our website is a critical part of our brand. We want to provide our students, parents, and community with a place that they can find accurate and current information and have a great user experience. Now, user experience can be difficult to specifically define and measure, but in a recent Google study, the top 3 words that were used to describe how people want their digital experience to be are easy, helpful, and convenient. So we are working with our web designer to achieve just these things. At the same time, we want to highlight more of our students and to keep our community up to date on what's happening across the district. So like, for instance, now if I'm pointing at things, can you see this too?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So earlier in the school year, we added this return to learn button prominently here to make it easier for everyone to find the information as things were happening very quickly and turning a lot regarding return to learn. So this is right here. Now, here are some of the recent updates that we have just done. So these photos right here in the center are a perfect place for us to focus on our students and how they are putting our vision, mission, and core values into practice. So in order to highlight and showcase more of our students, we've actually put so that these, and I don't know if you noticed as I was talking, they rotate. And so they were put on a carousel that just allows them to continue to rotate. But one of the other things, and this is just a little thing, but we've added so you have the ability as a user to manually go to different photos. So if you're coming onto the website and then a photo passes and you're like, wait a minute, was that my neighbor? There's my neighbor. Now you have the ability to go back and manually move the photos. Some of it, like I said, just little things that make a difference. Now, since COVID has limited the number of spectators that can attend our school events, the new way to watch is via live stream links. So we have added some new functionality to help our community find those live stream links, enabling them to then participate as much as possible in our games, meets, concerts, etc. So if a live stream link to a game or event is available, you can find it in several different places. Now, initially, the only place that you could find it was by following the activities Twitter account at SEP Polk Rams. And so they always posted there, but not all of our fans are on Twitter. So we have beefed up this area here, which is our social media banner. And so now, as you can see, we have the live Twitter feed from our Southeast Polk Rams, the activities office, as well as the Southeast Polk Schools, which is the district office feeds. So now in here, you can get results, you can get updates, you can get links, you can get scores, and different results. So it's all right here on the website. What we've also done, and you can see, so obviously you can scroll up and down to control what you see. What we've also done over here on the left-hand side is that we have added a live feed of our Instagram account. And so here again, all the different Instagram pictures, and we've added this manual slider. So if you wanted to find the specific information about Coach Z winning, you can go there. If you've missed it, you can continue on and you can control what you see here. Now, another new exciting feature that we have in the works is that soon we will be transitioning our referendum 2020 to Construction Central. We want to keep our community up to date on the progress that we're making on all of our capital projects. And so we are going to be transitioning this referendum 2020 to Construction Central, which is an area where you can get updates, artist renderings, photos, videos, FAQs, all the information that you need. Now, the goal is that we will have at least a simple page up here in the next few weeks, and then we'll continue to ramp it up as our projects ramp up and we get more collateral that we're able to present and share. And then one last thing that I just want to be sure and point out is that in order to better serve our community, our website is available in a variety of different languages. And so here, if we have families that need it in a different language, you simply click on it and then it immediately translates to your language that you want. So that's really all that I have. Are there any questions?
Nope.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Looks really good.
That looks great.
Do we have analytics set up with our website so we know what pages people are going to and maybe use that to elevate those to a more convenient location?
Absolutely, we do. And that is something that we are working with not only on with our web designer, but we're also doing some of those analytics with our social media feed. So we know who's looking at what when.
Okay, great.
Did that answer your question?
Yep.
Jeannie, while I have you here, somebody was asking me how to find the board link on the website. I haven't done it a long time, but can you just kind of click through that?
Well, so there's a couple of places. It's always here. The district has the Board of Education page. And so there's always then the information that goes there. And then each week, I also put out the announcement that has the live stream link. So if you just go to our announcements, then it'll have the live stream link.
Okay.
And all you have to do is click on it right there.
Are the meeting materials then on the district part of it?
Yeah.
Yes, so those
Okay.
are actually on, to get to that, here, let me go back. to get so that like you can see the agenda, is that kind of what
Right,
you're talking?
yes,
Yep.
meetings.
So
yeah.
then, so here I went into the district, again, Board of Education, that takes me to this page. And then over here, you can see that we have a quick link that goes to meeting agendas and minutes.
Gotcha.
And then you go up to the meetings.
Just like
Oh,
our
that's great.
stuff, yeah.
And then hopefully. I'm not sure why it's not going, but typically it would open up right there and then it would give you the list of all of the meetings.
There's usually a
Okay.
delay if you hold it long enough.
Yeah, I think it's just slow.
It's loading.
And then you'd see today's agenda. So I actually have it open over here.
Yeah, there it
Right.
is. Yeah.
So then once you click on that meeting, it would show you today's date, and then you simply click on it, and then it brings you to the agenda, and then you can see all of the items.
I guess my other question is, who is our web designer?
The company is called Juicebox, and they're
Oh,
in
yes.
Des Moines.
I remember
Iowa.
that. Okay. Yep.
Ranks up there. with
Their building looks like a
Bingo
giant
bread.
juice box.
Yeah.
I drive
It
by.
does. They have a big straw on the top. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else I can answer for you?
Oh, Like the changes.
That looks great.
Appreciate it.
I think Patrick Tunks was looking for a picture of the student council on there.
Yeah.
Stop by my office. I'll take your picture and we'll put you right there front and center. Okay, Patrick?
Perfect. You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jeannie. Appreciate it. All right. So student council needs to have their picture taken. Okay.
Well, basically just Patrick, since he's here, with his mask on at the board meeting.
Just throw them on the banner. Add a fourth image that rotates and it's just him.
Look at his service.
I can see the big smile underneath his mask. All right. Don't know if it's embarrassment or excitement. But all right, Central Iowa Metropolitan League Conference. Mr. Campbell, are you out there today? Not yet. Doesn't want to talk to us.
This photo was on there a minute ago. There he
We're
is.
not leaving until Mr. Campbell
Hey.
talks to us.
Okay, it's not that I didn't want to talk to you. I got patched in now, so good evening. Here to talk a little bit about the Central Iowa Metropolitan League proposal to superintendents and the school boards. This talk has been ongoing, I would say for at least 3 years about realignment with the conference. I know Steve Pettit's listening in. Steve is supervising basketball for us in Winterset tonight, but Steve leads the principals group in the CIML, and right now I'm the president of the AD group. Both of those groups, well, let me go back just a little bit. Right now, our current rotation, we're in year 2 of 3, and you kind of have how there's 3 different leagues and how those shake out. We've always been paired up with Waukee and Valley, and then the rest of the league kind of rotates. Everybody's paired up in pods of 3. So we're in the last year of that. There's been a desire, I think, for some time to change the format, and this has worked through a couple different committees of ADs that a proposal was put forward, and the proposal was made by Des Moines East to split the conference into 2 divisions. One is a 9-team conference, the other is a 10-team conference, and you have those there in front of you. That passed out of the AD group. I think the vote was 14-5. Then it moved to the principal group, passed with a similar margin. The reason or the rationale behind the split is a couple of things. One, it's good to have a league just in general to make sure you have games and for scheduling purposes, but we felt like this split with a 10-9 was able to maybe get some more competitive balance overall. Benefit for us, I feel like, is more opportunity for our lower level teams to have games. But also I think it's an opportunity for schools that are most similar to each other to have a little bit closer collaboration. We talk about wanting to get together and do more than just do schedules, is ADs collaborating on different initiatives like sportsmanship, student leadership, different fine arts, to just allow maybe a little bit closer collaboration that one large league is a challenge. So again, this is something that's worked its way through committees. I would say this, again, there's been talk of this for several years. This model really came to fruition over the past couple months. We looked at a few different models. This is the one that came to the forefront. The motion was made by Des Moines and passed out of the AD group, and then went to the principals, and now it's in front of the superintendent and the school boards.
And is all those teams happy with the placement of where they would be?
I think happy in terms of, I mean, there are some people that didn't vote for it. They kind of flipped between what came out of the AD group and then came out of the principal group. I think most teams feel okay with where they're at in respect to being in either of those divisions. The questions have really come up with, I think, basketball in the complete round robin and playing each other. That was a concern, I think, for some of the Des Moines schools. There is some concern, I think, in the 9-team league that we play in. That's incredibly challenging in some sports where there's not maybe necessarily the crossovers with other teams, and how does that impact us? And when you're looking at seeding purposes for state tournaments or regional or sub-state. And so, that's a concern, but I would say everybody feels happy about where they're at in either of those divisions. I think there's some details that not everybody is 100% in agreement with, but it's really hard with a 19-team league to build every schedule that everybody's going to feel 100% okay with it. Our coaches, and talking with them and those that had feelings, I think basketball and softball and wrestling were very much in favor of this split. I think golf had some concerns on the boys' side about what that would mean, because if only those dates are all duals, that really takes up the ability to play in tournaments and see other competition. So we've built a model with those become, triangulars in some instances to free up dates so that we can still play in tournaments and see other competitions to try to work through that. So again, it's really difficult to come up with one that you're going to get 100% agreement in across the board, but this is where I would say we felt most comfortable landing.
When will it be finalized?
Well, so again, it was approved by the ADs, it's approved by the principals, and now all of the ADs are moving it forward to their boards for approval. It would not go into effect until after next year. So it would go into effect the fall of 22. So, we're trying to look down the road on this.
So, Jason, question for you, and this is one of those hills that I just don't quite understand. I see 18 public schools. Why is Dowling included in this other than just proximity?
That's my question too.
Why not two leagues of 9 and just keep it to public schools?
And not include Dowling in what we're doing?
Correct.
I don't know other than we're going to have to compete with them regardless when it comes down to tournament time. And so in terms of, I think, who they're most alike in terms of competition and programming with athletics, they fit into that group. Again, I don't have a good answer for you necessarily of why we would exclude them, other than historically they've always been in our league and they're in the Iowa High School Athletic Association. At some point, we're going to have to compete with them as well. So,
Jason, I really like this proposal. Number one, it's going to save us a lot of transportation. Not having Mason City and Fort Dodge and Ottumwa in our conference is huge. I also state that I like the fact that what you already mentioned, which is for especially our lower levels like ninth grade, when you have B games and C games, the conference we're in, those schools have B teams and C teams. Most of the 10-team conference, maybe Ames, but the Des Moines schools do not have. Sometimes they don't even have a ninth grade team, let alone a B team or a C team. And so that's fortunate that we're in a group that we can schedule B games and maybe even sometimes C games, which is fantastic. The only thing I'm concerned about, and I'm sure you've thought about it 100 times, but being in the odd numbered conference, when you have like a basketball night and you're not an even number, one team's going to have a bye. Does it stay a bye, or are they free to find a game on their own when it's their turn to? And since we don't have an even number of teams for like basketball, baseball, those type of things.
right now, basketball is a true round robin in that you would play everybody. That's probably the main sticking point with everything. There still are in some of these built in some crossovers to maintain the ability to schedule a little bit. You know, basketball, it isn't you just play everybody home and home in your division. It's actually a complete round robin with all teams.
But I mean, on a typical Friday night, you're going to have 8 of your 9 teams playing a game.
Yep, and so
one team's not going to be able to play. Or they're going to have to find a game.
Right, and you still have the opportunity to find games outside of our conference. So if you are on the bye week, you are free to go out and find another opponent up to your scheduling limitation from the association or union.
I'm sure you're very aware and I'm sure all 9 schools are going to fight for the same thing, but you would hate to have your bye week in basketball fall on a Friday, because that's back when we have attendance at games, a Friday night bye financially is a huge hit, where a Tuesday night bye, not so much. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but.
No, I understand what you're saying. And yeah, those are things we'd have to work through as they come. And hopefully, you know, that's one of those nights you have an opportunity to schedule a City High or Iowa City West or Indianola or somebody like that.
Well, I'm glad this doesn't start until the fall of 22, so you have time to maybe find those gaps in your schedule, since we're the 9-team league or 9-team conference. So I really like it. Thank you for putting up with the Des Moines schools and representing us. Actually meant that.
Oh, thank you.
Will we be voting on this at the next meeting?
Yeah, so from a timeline standpoint, the conference vote is actually in April. And it's 1 vote per district, the way I understand it, right, Jason?
That's correct.
And so this is just a discussion item tonight, but we'll bring this back as an action item in the March meeting.
Okay.
And then we'll have our vote set at that point that we can have Jason take for us
Okay.
in their April meeting.
So
Jason,
Des Moines will only have 1 vote, right?
Correct.
Jason, before we lose you, I appreciate you must have an incredible job trying to find the middle ground between all those competing interests. And I'm going to try to get on board with this plan, but I've often wondered why the parochial schools are in our conference. Let them go play each other, the Helens, the Reginas, and the Dowlings. And, you know, I hear it from, I know I'm not the only one, I may because I lived here, but I hear from other residents the frustration of, or at least the perception, which I think is more than perception, about recruiting and athletes moving. And it's going to become even worse. The legislature, and it's the R's, Lori, it's not the D's, do this stuff with students moving around.
Yeah.
My tolerance for it is going to get, I don't mind, I love competition. I want competition. I don't mind competing with public schools. In fact, I'm fine with that. But if we're going to start, I think we ought to be on a level playing field, and they have the ability to pick and choose who they want and who they don't want. And that's going to become, these issues are all going to get more complex, I guess, is what I'd say. Again, Jason, I appreciate what you're doing. There needs to be some plan, and I get it. We want kind of teams that are equal to be playing each other. And I'm not sure with respect to that they are that one team, but that's all I'll say on that.
Thank you.
We'll be watching you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sounds like an IHSAA issue.
Yeah.
All right, sounds like
Definitely
some
on the
interesting stuff. Monthly financials, Mr. Bacon, you back with us?
I am. Good evening, board. You have the monthly financials for the month of January in front of your place settings. It's actually 58% rather than 50% of the year gone. Just a quick review of this. The revenues are up 3.4% in the general fund. We didn't do tuition billings until this month, so that's why there's a big difference between last year's tuition billings and this year's. This would be open enrollment, special ed billings. The transportation, interest, donations, all of those revenues are down due obviously to the pandemic. One thing I did want to touch on in the general fund when it came to revenues are the COVID, the pandemic funding that we have been or will be getting through the federal government. We recorded some of those revenues. We don't record revenues until we get that money. We don't get that money until we report our expenditures. For this year, we've gotten about $200,000 of federal funding related to COVID. COVID overall between last year and this year is about 2.4 million.
Is our cost,
Revenues.
that's our revenue, 2.4 because of COVID?
Correct. That's the funding we'll get because of COVID to help offset costs. We will spend all those monies on pandemic related costs. So 200,000 received so far. The second quarter billing that was just submitted was 1.1 million of that. So a big chunk of that money will be coming to us here shortly. I just say that because you see revenues increase 3.4%. You'll see another big increase probably in the April time frame as we get to that standpoint.
Kevin,
Yes.
does that cover our costs?
Right now, we are okay with those costs. We continue to obviously to have our connectivity hotspots in which we reserve some of the earmark some of the money from GEAR funding, which is again part of the pandemic related costs offered to us through the state. And we still have a good chunk of federal, what they call ESSER funds for those ongoing continuous costs, some of which we are going to be paying. The Mr. Horton brought in 1,100-day substitutes, long-term subs to the board for approval. We'll be using those funds to pay for those subs. Expenditures in the general fund are up 9.9% compared to prior year. Wages and benefits up 5.7%. Again, a lot of that related to COVID overtime substitution costs. Obviously, the big increased expenditures in addition to wages and benefits are the pandemic related costs when it comes to connectivity again and the disinfecting, cleaning, and extra sanitation that we've been doing. Regarding all funds, revenues are up 171.4%, skewed because of the bond proceeds received through the capital project. Without the bonds, the revenues are up just 0.4%. Again, student activities, because of the lack of spectators in the stands, student activity revenues are down. Food service revenues are down. They are coming back up with the kids now being in school. And then the other the increase that we're not seeing that we saw last year, not this year, is the insurance proceeds from the high school. Expenditures, high school roof repairs, I apologize. The expenditures are up 9.2%. Without the debt piece of it, it's 5.5%. We had some debt financing costs as we issued that debt. You'll see continual increases in facility and acquisition costs as we continue with our design architect and movement with the multi-purpose stadium and the middle school building. Any questions regarding monthly financials through January? A couple of things to add here, no questions. I'll bring to the board next month the extension of audit services for 1 additional year, the final year of the contract. And then we are right now out to the market for our health insurance third-party administration. Walmart Blue Cross Blue Shield has had our services for quite some period of time. Through the insurance committee, we thought it would be beneficial for us to go to the market to see if we can get some administrative savings and also some reinsurance insurance savings through a third-party administrator other than Walmart. Obviously, Walmart is a pretty big pink elephant in the room, especially in the central Iowa area. So we'll see how that pans out. At the very least, we think they will sharpen their pencils and reduce some of those administrative costs for us. That's all I have for monthly financials and updates. I can move straight to the budget if you'd like.
Oh, yes, can't wait.
Or do we want to take a break first? I'm kidding.
Oh, it's not that bad.
I'm going to share my screen. Is the cover slide on the screen? The fiscal year 2022 budget discussion. Do you see that slide on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just a review of our district funds. You see in there, we added one fund this year, the capital project fund. That is the bond issuance in which we've done for the 7 projects that we have on the schedule. The ones that are asterisked again, many of you have seen this, but I just like to review this every year. The ones that are asterisked are part of our tax levy. The main budget drivers, supplemental state aid, which determines cost per pupil, our enrollment from this past October, wages and benefits agreements, and then any other things from the board or administration. Supplemental state aid. You heard Dr. Halupnik mention that the Senate and House have compromised at a 2.4% increase. The governor proposed a 2.5% increase, just to remind everybody. There's formula equity of $10 per student. Again, transportation equity. We this year are receiving some of that transportation equity, and it's hard to determine if we'll receive it. We'll receive some next year as well. But this year's allocation to Southeast Polk was just over $6,000, so it's not really material. There's also been some talk about a $30 million miscellaneous per pupil supplemental piece, the one-time funding. This has been talked about as a $60 to $65 cost per student. But as part of the compromise bill, they want all school districts to provide the days of instruction to their bodies, the Department of Education, to determine what that allocation might be. That is unknown. The supplemental state aid piece, the 2.4%, and the $10 cost per pupil, that is a separate bill and can be now signed by the governor. Dollars wise, that equates to about $169 increase in supplemental state aid. The additional $10 per student is about $70,000 to the district, bringing the total cost per pupil up to $7,227 per pupil. There is some legislation in place because of the pandemic and because families may have not sent preschoolers, 4-year-old preschools to our programs. The current law for state voluntary preschool only allows funding for 4-year-old preschools at a 0.5 FTE. There's legislation that will allow under this program 5-year-olds within the preschool program at a 1.0. Again, that is still under discussion. Our total certified enrollment went down. And we've been talking about this for a period of time, went down just over 80 students. Different increases, decreases based on these different items, open enrollment, ELL being English language learners. And there's that preschool reduction in students. We are in the final multi-year agreements with both certified and classified staff. Certified is a 2% package. Classified based on the agreement, agreement back 4 years ago, they have their hourly rates set. We do not know what medical and dental increases are this year. We do know that IBRS contribution rates remain the same, so no changes from that perspective. Normal estimated increases in wages and benefits is around $1.2 to $1.4 million, and I'll expand on that a little bit more here in a moment. With all those things said, our new money is about $650,000 based on that supplemental state aid. This does not include that $30 million supplemental piece. Salaries and benefits here. I said 1.2 to 1.4 before. I'm including this as 870,000 for next year because I do a year-to-year movement or increase. Last year's, excuse me, 2019-20 and the 2021, the current school year, has some inherently has some increased costs in which don't typically happen because of overtime substitutes because of the pandemic. So I kind of brought that back down to figure where I think the increase will be from this year to next year. That being 870,000. Non-personnel costs increased about 280,000 for a total increase of 1.15 million. This leaves us with a budget deficit of $500,000, $500,000. That's authority. At this time, however, I'm not going to recommend any budget reductions. If we take the supplemental one-time money at $60 per student, roughly, that's about $400,000. We know also that what we call our redshirt enrollment, or those students that have been pulled out or not enrolled within our buildings this year, will probably come back next year. We have some COVID funding to offset some of these costs when it comes to wages and benefits. And then looking at the fiscal year end FY20 unspent authority was sat at 14.6%. If we were to take $500,000 from that, it would reduce that unspent authority to 14.1%. I know it's going to go down a little bit lower than that because we expect some additional costs this year to unspent authority, but we're still within that 5 to 15% range that the IASB recommends. So that's authority. And how do we get that money? You've seen this slide before. This is the silo slide. So we talk about the uniform levy. We talk about the commercial industrial rollback, state aid making up 87.5% of that, and then the additional levy on top. One piece of the legislation also, this PTRP, the property tax relief piece, they've capped that at $750. And the rest actually is being funded by the state. So they capped that increase for property tax wise, the rest shifting to state, or about $11.6 million of that. Again, the district's funds. Our property valuation's up 5% compared to 8.3% in the prior year. This will be an assessed year coming up. So for the FY23 budget, we will see a bigger or higher increase in property valuations. Tax rate considerations. Our dropout prevention programs and at-risk dollars for authority, we asked for $1.7 million. All that is property tax funded. We had some cash reserve levy authorities as well. You approved these as a school board based on certified enrollment. Those items indicated there. We also every year have costs in excess for English language learners in excess of funding, and our special education deficit, as well as cash for cash. Dropout prevention actually went from 2.3 to $1.7 million as an ask, so that dropped to $600,000. Our cash reserve levy, we had the ability to reserve cash reserve $3.765,000 this year. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward here. This is the different pieces that we could have done for tax rate considerations in the general fund in the calculation of the tax rate. The cash reserve, though, was limited 20% of the prior year expenditures, so we would have been limited to 3.76 million or $1.80 of that. The history of the cash reserve limits, we were not able to do any sort of cash reserve limit reservation in FY20. We had an ability to do 1.3 last year or this current year, and then levied 740,000. This year we have 3.76 million to levy. We're going to levy just a little bit less, and I'll tell you the reason why in just one moment. Debt service, the issuance of debt service. We try to keep the tax rate the same when it came to the bond payment. That actually went down by a penny. Management fund. So when we develop the tax rate and our budget, we have just a few places in which we can play with or analyze tax rates. Management fund is one of those pieces. We have had a pretty good management fund balance over the past few years. In FY 2020, we had an ending balance of $2.7 million. Relative to what we actually take in for revenues last year, this current year, our revenue ask is $1.7 million. So we have more than a year's worth of fund balance within our management fund now. I'm going to ask for temporarily reducing that management fund for this 2020 school year in order for us to keep our tax rates flat. And that is an actual decrease within the management fund component of the tax rate of 31 cents. Last year, we asked for $1.7 million. We're going to ask for about $1 million, $1.1 million this year in the management fund. Again, the management fund can be used to pay for the early retirement incentives, our property casualty and workers' comp insurance, any kind of litigation, and we've thrown that break fix insurance program in there as well, including HVAC repairs. Our tax rate history over the past 6 years. The tentative tax rate for the current year is in this column here. You can kind of see the rates based on the fund. For the current year, you can see we're keeping the tax rate the same at $15.44. This is always interesting to see. This would be a grid of our 5 up, 5 down tax rates. Some of these folks in our metro area, obviously. This also shows the difference between property poor and property rich districts. For example, we issue $15.54 of a levy, getting $32.6 million. West Des Moines issues $13.16 and receives twice as much money as we do. Next steps, we'll have another presentation for you in the March 11th meeting. We'll have the public hearing, plan to have the public hearing on April 1st with approval, and then the certified budget needs to go to the Polk County by April 15th.
I like the tax rate.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of play between that taking the whole cash reserve levy and the management fund. I think we need to fund the management fund to the tune of $1 million. We can still reduce some of that fund balance. In 2023 going forward, we'll try to rebuild that balance up in the management fund as well. We just don't know what kind of litigation may or may not happen. I want to be prepared for that as well.
Yeah, you should be prepared.
That's ominous.
Wow.
I appreciate this, Kevin. I think it's, I don't know what the right word is, insightful. I like the maneuver on the management fund to try to get us through this pinch point. And obviously, you know, we can't spin these plates forever, but hopefully this is a one-time glitch. I guess all of this sort of though seems like, let me ask it this way. If this extra bump is like $400,000 that we're kind of counting on to fill that, if that doesn't, I mean, I guess we don't know. I mean, we don't know if that'll happen.
We don't know what will happen. We actually don't know what the dollar amount is. The theory is though it's around that $60 to $65 per student. Really depends on other school districts. If you can imagine their days calculation or the number of days in a classroom being a certain weight, the number of days hybrid being a certain weight, and it's across the spread of all school districts in Iowa. So whatever our proportionate share of that, whatever weight that is, will be our funding.
Okay,
I'm going to jump in on that just for 1 second. I think it's pretty likely there'll be something because
okay.
the Senate had it in their version of the bill, the House had it in their version of the bill. They just had it in different ways, different methods to calculate how that money
So they
would be
both had it
dispersed.
in the mix.
So what it sounds like is going to happen is they're going to compromise on how they calculate, and that's going to be the difference maker, but there'll be something.
So it shouldn't be a question of zero or something, should be a question of how much.
How
of
much.
something.
Right.
Correct.
Do you have a backup if for some reason it's the ditch and it's zero, or? I
Again,
mean,
if
is there
I,
enough play in there to keep that maneuver or not?
yeah, I think there is. And that's why I put that unspent authority piece in there at 14.6 where we set it in 20. If we did nothing and that 30 million chunk didn't come to us, our unspent authority would go down, but we're still within that 5 to 15%
Right,
rate. It's still at a
okay.
pretty good spot.
I understand. Okay, well, that's good to know. I appreciate the effort not to increase the tax rate. And I guess the other thing is, yeah, in 23, you say we're going to get new assessments.
Higher assessments will get more dollars within those things in which we assessed at a tax rate for, stated tax rate, I'm sorry, PEPL, think PEPL. So that's one of our big pieces too when it comes to the funding of certain projects. And we'll be able to gather more money based on a dollar of money assessed or levied.
And hopefully then
Do-
enrollment also
Do we have any TIF things to
coming off.
come into the mix?
You know, I haven't looked at that, but let me prepare that for the March 11th
Okay.
meeting. I wanted to share that with you as
All
well.
right.
We're not,
That'd be fine.
we are,
Thank you.
yep.
Kevin, last time we were talking about this stuff, you'd mentioned that, and I should have wrote it down, but if we have to borrow some money here or there, then it could affect us the following budget. What was that part? And does that play in part what we're doing here? Do you recall what we were talking about?
I don't recall that conversation, Mr. Handy. I'm sorry.
What? You don't live on every word I say? I
I
can't
know-
remember either, so don't feel bad, but it was related to just on the money shortage that if, does anybody remember that at all? Because it seems like,
Kevin, I think it was around budget authority. And
Oh,
if we spent down that, like the 14.6 to the 14.1, that authority then is gone at that point,
that sounds,
I think.
I think that's right, because it was something that if we used the money this year to kind of keep a status quo, depending on what the legislature gave us, that could have an impact on what the next budget was, and we could, so how does that affect, if I'm making any sense on that?
Yeah, you might be referring to what I had the board approve as far as a budget guarantee resolution. That would be the case where if SSA wasn't set and we didn't get enough funding beyond what we lost in enrollment, we would have been guaranteed 101% of our regular program funding.
That was.
That would affect the following year budget because the regular funding for the following year would have been different than what it is this year. Is that what you were referring to?
So this has no impact on any of that.
The budget guarantee, yeah, even though having the board approve the budget guarantee resolution might be something that we just do by habit every year, just in case things happen. But having the House and Senate compromise on the 2.4% and not seeing anything from the governor as far as not signing that bill, that budget guarantee resolution is pretty much a moot point at this point.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're able to kind of even that out so we don't have to make any cuts. I mean, that's the last thing that we want to have to do. I mean, our finances are always, we're really good and we brag about them a lot, but there's always those moments where it seems like we still have our solvency ratio is good, our spending authority is good, and then we get to the point where we think 2 point whatever is good, and that's never enough.
No, it's not. It is not. It's terrible. I mean, to be positive, 2.4 is awful, but it's better than 2.1. So that's why I'm not screaming. But
Well, I'm screaming for you because it seems like we
Thanks.
have done a great job. You have done a great job, you and your team. We do our part on trying to keep that in check. So it's just frustrating. So I thank you and your team for keeping us where we're at and not getting us underneath the I know what I'm trying to say on there, but basically getting us in the behind is really.
I appreciate that. And just I missed the bullet point as I normally do when I'm talking off cue here, but just as a reference point, the 2.4% in the amount of money the state is providing, as Dr. Halupnik alluded to it, the uniform levy that every school district has, that $5.40 levy, that levy in and of itself gathers $39 million of additional property taxes. That additional property tax dollar amount is more than what the state share is as an
Right.
increase in
Yeah.
state cost this year.
I
Good
remember
point.
one year they gave us $90 million for all the districts in Iowa, and it was low. And they're bragging this year about giving us $28 million.
Yes.
And
It's just a point,
as-
yeah.
As an increase, and it's shameful. I feel that they treat education the worst of everything they do in the state of Iowa. I think they're always attacking education for whatever reason. And we have to be happy with 2.4, but it's still wrong what they're doing at the Capitol this year.
And we're having to do this, spin the plates and bounce the ball on the toe to
Right.
get through this
Mhm.
pinch point to try to keep, to
Everybody's
have the best of
working-
both worlds. We're not
Yes.
laying people off. And we're
So-
not increasing taxes.
Just so we don't
And we
lose,
can-
not that anyone's listening, but I have to say it,
I'm
that
listening to you. Laura.
what they're doing is wrong. And they continue to do it for at least 11 years now, underfunding education. But yay for 2.4.
Yeah. And that goes to say, we've added some things back. We'll never get back to where we were before 2009, I think it was. Is that right, Gary and Laurie? 2009, when the first budget.
Yeah,
was.
right.
And here we are, 10 years later, 12 years
11.
later, whatever. I don't even know what year it is. It could be.
11 years. I've been watching them do it for 11 years.
We were talking about 2022 and I was like, okay. But anyway, so yeah, I can't thank you guys enough because that's frustrating when it comes to this conversation every year that we do everything and we want to try to keep adding back and it doesn't seem like we're ever can get ahead because we're, and I can't even, I'm gonna shut up because it just, just get myself.
Well, and I
like a
can't
lorry.
remember, but I know the pandemic has hit and everything, but aren't the state coffers, I mean,
$1 billion.
yeah, because
$1
they
billion.
taxed all this internet stuff that,
Well, it's not only that, but they haven't tapped in. I mean, if the last year, 12 months has not been a rainy day, what is considered? a
no,
rainy
that's
What
day?
is
true.
this?
Yeah, it's raining.
What is the last
Exactly.
year?
$750 million sitting there, but not, apparently, this hasn't been a good enough reason to use it. So
Yeah, and I don't think have we been reimbursed for all our COVID expenses minus I know we have the issue with the sick time coming up. That's gonna be an extra cost to us or could be an extra cost to us or at least to our employees, I guess.
Yeah, we have about roughly about $500,000 left in what we call that second pot of ESSER CARES funding to take us through, and that actually can be used through 2023. And related to that, you heard me talk about FEMA before and filing a FEMA claim. I haven't yet because of simple fact that there's been some inconsistent processing of FEMA claims by FEMA. There are school districts that haven't received anything yet, and they continue to be pushed back. So I'm going to wait and not be that guinea pig first. But once we do that, it really is just a shell game shift. Then we would move those CARES ESSER 2 funding over to FEMA and have more room for ESSER or pandemic related costs going through 2023. What I don't want to do is sit here in 2022 with the pandemic being over, quote unquote, and still have money left for ESSER CARES money. I want to make sure we spend that money.
Right,
Right.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Go teach a first grader.
Thank you. I won't use that C word.
thank you. Get us in trouble.
I missed that. I remember you.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Oh, collusion. I think you meant
Should we
China.
have to adjourn? Is there more?
Anything for the good of the cause?
Back
Patrick, you
to
got anything
wrestling.
for us from the students?
Everything's going pretty well, I think. I think a lot of people are happy with school right now. I think classes are going well. I think second semester off to a really good start.
How's block schedule working for you?
It's going good. I personally like building campus one.
Perks of being older.
Yeah, that's definitely positive. So block schedule is going good.
Awesome. All right, well, thank the students for doing their part and
Wearing their masks
Yep.
and staying safe when they're not in school.
hopefully we can get through this year. And
Christmas.
all right, anybody else?
No, amazing how well the tech ran tonight. So props to new Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice job.
The new
The
Jason.
new Jason. All right, on that note, any
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Seconded.
We're out of here. Thank you for
All right.
attending.